Okay, so let me start by saying thank you for joining me virtually tonight. Uh, I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to speak to you and happy that there is technology that allows us to stay connected, even though we are still, now we're at the tail end of the pandemic. But I am very much looking forward to the day when we can do these sessions in person. I've been coming to teach at CEDIM for many years, and I do miss coming down to Mexico, especially in the wintertime coming from Chicago. So I will be very happy when we are past this period where we're not allowed to travel as much and be back in person down in Mexico. But for tonight, we remain virtual, and I will do my best to make this a valuable use of your time. I know many of you probably sat all day sitting, staring at this same screen, doing your work remotely. So I'm going to try to make it a little more interesting, and hopefully you'll enjoy the conversation and find some value in what we do tonight. So I have three objectives for this session. It's to inform, inspire, and practice. So the first objective, inform. Tonight I'm going to share some knowledge about innovation leadership, things that I've learned in my career and things that I'd like to share with you to help you think about innovation leadership, maybe in a different way. The second piece is to inspire throughout this conversation and of sharing the information and doing a little bit of practice. I'm hoping that you'll walk away with something that you feel is helpful and that it inspires you to incorporate this into your life in a positive way. And then the last piece is practice. So I know we don't have a lot of time. This is a relatively short period, but we are going to use some of our time tonight to do a little bit of practice of some of the things I'm going to teach you tonight. And hopefully, again, it's a starting point. Again, with not a lot of time, you're not going to be able to get through a big exercise, but I've created it in a way that I think will be helpful for you to get started and hopefully give you a little bit of a taste of what we do in the online course that I teach. The agenda is 4 parts. The first one is to talk briefly about what it means to be an innovation leader, and I call it step 1 because there's no way to share everything about innovation leadership in a 1-hour period. But really, this is really the first part of what I believe is what it takes to become an innovation leader or to be a great innovation leader. As I said, we're going to do a little bit of an exercise, a mini workshop, as I call it. Then we'll do a little bit of show and tell. And so I'm going to ask some of you that are participating in this to share some of the things that you did in the workshop component. And then at the end, we'll have time for some Q&A. So we have a relatively decent sized number of people on the call. So I'd like to typically keep things interactive, but given the time frame and the number of people, if you do have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat. And during our Q&A, I will do my best to answer as many of the questions that come up during the presentation. Okay, so before we can discuss how to be a good innovation leader, I want to start with a simple definition of innovation. And I look at innovation in 3 parts. It's this diagram I've been using throughout my career, and it's been very helpful to me as I look at what innovation is. So there are 3 components. There's insight, idea, and execution. And insight is the first part, which is really important because this is where you get a deep understanding of your customers' needs and wants. It typically involves a lot of research, observation, analysis, a lot of heavy thinking about the situation, what the problems are and the frictions are. And then you take a step back and then you look at the big picture and then you start connecting some dots. And the people that are really good at developing insights are really good at seeing different points, putting them together, and then getting a different picture than most everyone else about what the situation is. The second part is the idea. And this is the part that most people equate to innovation. It's the fun, creative part where we could brainstorm ideas and come up with lots of crazy solutions. But really, the best ideas are the ones that aren't necessarily the most creative, but they're the ones that best meet the insights of your customer. the frictions and the problems that you identify in that first part that I mentioned. Those are the ideas that really have the biggest impact because they're addressing something that the customer is looking for. And then the third part is execution. And this is the hardest part. For those of you that have ever tried to launch products or have done innovation, this is probably familiar to you because this is the part of innovation where failure happens. This is the part when you try new things that have never been done before or try things that haven't been done in the way that you're trying, and you fail. And all good innovators know that this is part of the journey. This is part of getting to good innovation is you have to have some failure along the way. And that failure are points of learning. And that failure is what helps you glean new insights that you can create better ideas and then come back to make better solutions and ultimately create winning innovation. And so the center of this diagram is where I believe the most impactful true innovation happens, right? It's the intersection of the insight with the right idea and executed in a way that is successful, that satisfies your customer. So that's my basic definition of innovation. And there are lots of definitions of innovation out there, but I find this one to be useful because it's relatively simple, but yet very powerful when you really think about the three different components. So if that's the definition of innovation, then what does it take to be a leader in innovation? And that's really the main point of our discussion tonight. And so the simple answer as for tonight that I'd like to share is innovation leadership is really the combination of innovation skills and leadership skills. And you can be a great innovator, but you don't not necessarily be a great leader. Or conversely, you can be a great leader, but not necessarily a great innovator. And the best innovation leaders are the ones that have key skills in both of these areas. And that's that middle part that the question mark is laying in. And this is where certain skills of innovation and certain skills of leadership come together and they create powerful innovation leadership. So in the simple diagram you see, there are different skill sets on innovation and leadership. And some of you may be thinking, well, some of those skills on the left side could easily be on the right side and vice versa. And you'd be right. Because there is no, this is not meant to be a precise definition, and there is no one exact answer, at least as far as I've searched and researched in the past. But this is really meant to be a guide to help you think about innovation leadership and to really look at it a little bit differently as different components, but then coming together. And in my opinion, successful innovation leaders don't have every skill listed here, but rather they're a unique combination of some of the innovation skills that you see on the left and some of the leadership skills you see on the right. And then for the areas that you're not strong in, the best innovation leaders surround themselves with people that complement the areas that they are weak in. And they create teams that are successful because some people are good at certain skills and other people are good at others. Because it's virtually impossible to find someone that can do everything in both columns really, really well and execute at that level. So think about some people that you think are great innovators. Are they also great leaders? And if you think so, ask what skills that they demonstrate on both sides of this diagram. And now think about some people that you think are great leaders. Does that necessarily make them great innovators? If so, why? If not, why not? And I think what you'll realize is that innovation leadership isn't a simple formula, and it's not everyone has to do it the same way. There are different types of leaders and there's different types of innovators. And you can be successful as an innovation leader by not being exactly the same as other people, but by identifying your unique combination of skills that make you who you are. And so the last real question on this slide is think about yourself and think about the skills you possess on the innovation side and on the leadership side. And then where do you come in the middle? And where are you as an innovation leader? What are your unique combination of skills on the left and skills on the right that make you who you are? So let's find out. So we are going to do a little exercise. The title of my talk tonight was is the Innovator in the Mirror. And I titled it this way because as I thought about, what is a way to convey innovation leadership as a first step, To me, the first step really is about taking a look at in the metaphorical mirror, the virtual mirror, and really understanding who you are and what your purpose is and how you want to make an impact as an innovation leader. And so we're going to do a little exercise as part of tonight, where we're going to start down this journey so that you have a little bit of an understanding of who you are and start down this journey. So one thing that I find with many of my clients is that people don't really take the time to do self-reflection. So think about the last time you actually thought about who you are and what you're about. And so I know a lot of people read self-help books and they think, oh, I'll read the book and then I'll kind of follow that formula. But what I find is those self-help books are one person's perspective of what they have been successful for them. But everybody's very different and unique. And I also find that people, while they read those books, they don't necessarily spend time just sitting and thinking and analyzing who they are and self-reflecting on their capabilities and really what you're all about. And it's not an easy exercise, and it doesn't happen in one small, quick workshop. So please don't expect that at the end of this, you'll have a clear picture of, oh, this is who I am as an innovation leader, because this really does take time and is a journey. So the good news for tonight is that you've all committed to this time to listen to me talk and be participant in this. So I'm going to ask you to take advantage of just a small part of tonight and look in the mirror and really examine yourself and start this process. So it's totally up to you how you want to spend the next 15 minutes or so when we kind of take time to do this little workshop exercise. But I would challenge you to use the time, since you've already committed this time, and really think about who you are. And some of you may do this on a regular basis, but I find most people don't, because sometimes it's a little uncomfortable. Like when you actually stare in the mirror and really look at yourself in the mirror, sometimes it's kind of uncomfortable looking at yourself like, is that what I really look like? And in this case, it's going beyond just the physical. It's really looking at yourself and examining who you are. So I hope you take the opportunity and take the time and really start thinking about who you are. So with that, let's begin. And I'm going to start with a simple framework that's from one of my favorite books. Many of you may know this book, written by Simon Sinek. It's called Start With Why. And the book offers a very simple framework, as I mentioned, and it's called The Golden Circle. So for those of you that haven't read his book or seen his TED Talk or his numerous talks that you can find online, I encourage you to either go get the book if you like to read, or if you don't like to read, go watch his TED Talk, because it's a good summary of what the main point of this is. But for tonight, for those that aren't familiar with it, let me just quickly share what this is, what the Golden Circle is. And it has three simple parts, and it starts in the middle with why. And the why is you or your company's reason for being. It's why you get up in the morning. What is your purpose of your company? And it's not what products you make or services you provide. And it's not the special sauce or the methodology you use to execute to get the job done. It's really where everything starts, right? It's why you exist. And for some people, it's relatively easy to figure this out because they've known all their lives. But for many, it's an exercise and a journey to discover this as you go. But your why is really your guiding light, where everything starts. And this is something that should help you make decisions as you really understand your purpose. So we're going to spend some time using this framework and thinking about your why. And then the how and the what are relatively straightforward and simple, but we'll go through that exercise as well. So we're going to use this framework, and each of you is going to take a crack at putting together your golden circle. So hopefully you're sitting there thinking, awesome, this is great, it'll be fun. If not, you can put me on mute and go watch some TV. But for the next 15 minutes, we're going to do a little exercise. So hopefully you'll join me. Okay, so one thing that you might have noticed in the two definitions that I just shared, the framework and the definition of innovation, is they look kind of similar. And I did that on purpose because they are connected in a way. So if you think about yourself as an innovative product, the golden circle really helps you define your 3 parts of innovation, right? And so your why is connected to the insights, right? It's a really good understanding of your needs or wants, if you will, as a innovator. The how is the unique way you go about doing your job, your personality, your style, your capabilities. And then your what is what you do for a living, right? Your job or your daily actions that lead to the results that you produce, right? So they are connected in that way. And so think about both the definition of innovation and then think about the golden circle, because they should correlate to a certain extent. So to be a great innovation leader, we're going to innovate yourself and think of yourself as a product, and think of yourself how you want to be a great innovation leader to the world. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone.